Chapter 21 Storm Clouds. Governor Victorina Lansaro. Is everything in place? Is the contingency measure ready should Paxo not be executed, and we must declare war and independence from Lansaro? General Lee Sampson. The contingency measure is still a work in progress, but it is sure to be catastrophic for those Veritok barbarians, should the rare instance happen where we know we are going to lose the war for independence. And considering that those American allies of Lansar have removed all nuclear weapons for us to seize. Awakening Solara is the next best option besides annihilating the Pantheon before their eyes. Victorina. Guess it goes to show there is some truth to these Veritok myths. How much longer until we can have that primordial protogen under our control and doing our bidding? Samson. The question isn't how long, but how will. Until we can free this thing sealed with extremely powerful and ancient Zulshuran Sunslayer magic that not even our magic suppression equipment can affect, this primordial protogen isn't making any progress. Victorina. Then the current progress will have to do. In the meantime, do we have the resources to stage a coup of the Elven Euphesian monarchy and instate a puppet regime loyal to us? Samson. We do. All they need is the order on our command. Victorina. Have we also managed to keep our operations secret from that protector of reprobates and Veritok heathens Umbriel? Samson. By all our accounts and spies, he, along with the highest-ranking officers of the Selenese armed forces, are completely unaware. They will be completely unprepared should they let Paxua live. Victorina. And what about the nymphs? Do we have the infrastructure necessary to force them into submission and use their nature magic to support our war effort? Samson. At will, our supreme leader. Victorina. Good. Now, if this trial of Paxua does not go our way, we'll be sure to make it so that never again will those reprobates and Veritok infidels see the light of day. Ace attorneys meet. Thomas. Thoughts. So the day finally came, and for as much as I try to convince myself all my clients are innocent, after the last investigation, I'm not sure if that's really the case with Paxua. Either that, or I can convince myself that the trial and those Zulshurans and American village folk were lying to try to get her convicted. Then again, how could completely unrelated people create a conspiracy so cohesive to get someone falsely convicted? I'd be kidding myself if I said that fat Tanuki wasn't the death of Paxua's entire case. I could hope the prosecutor doesn't call him in as a witness. But knowing how much my rival prosecutor hates Paxua, he'd probably call him in as a witness to try to convict her of every conceivable crime. Mr. Ellington. There you are, Governor. I presume you are ready to see your client convicted beyond a reasonable doubt? Thomas. We'll see about that. I'm ready to defend my client from any accusation made against her. Ellington. That's a bold claim, given the evidence. She may as well plead guilty now and spare herself the gallows for life in prison. Thomas. Let us not assume anything until after the trial over, that she is innocent until proven guilty. Queen Ariana and a reunion. As Mr. Whitetail and Natalia in Buck and Titania stood before her, Queen Ariana said, It is good to have my old friend come back here. I assume the royal guards have told you the reason why you're here to testify against my own mother. It is not something I wish to happen, but I think you understand what has to be done as a witness to the events of May 11, 2100, and what happened in the past. Mr. Whitetail then said, They have told me, and it's about time she paid for what she put the people of my town through. Sorry if that comes off a bit rude, Your Majesty, but that's how I feel about it. You don't have to call me Majesty, Mr. Whitetail. You've known me since I was a little girl. And I'll call you Ari. But by any chance, does this castle have any beer so I can share a drink with my daughter's friend? I don't think we have any drinks of that low class, but we can make arrangements. Name it and we'll get it for you. I'm not sure what you call low class, Ari, because some beer is kind of expensive. I know, I ordered a pint of your most expensive stuff when I was in town. Good to see you haven't lost your spunk and charm being cooped up in this cage like that. And now that you're old enough, why not join Natalia and I for a beer for old time's sake? I'd love to, but I have some things I need to attend to, like not starting a civil war over a royal court case. All the more reason to have a beer and clear your head. Who on any side, Kitsune or Tanuki, can say no to a beer and a good time? Some uptight Corvinus and the snobbiest of elves. Well, besides them, can't answer, can you? I was just thinking and I can't come up with an answer. That's what I thought. By the way, how is the good old Dr. Kitsune and the three Scalies? Victor then answered, I simply came to make sure Titania is up to date on all her schoolwork after volunteering to be her teacher. So, I've brought all her school materials in my infinite magic pockets. It's also good to see an old friend again. The capture of Jeremiah. As was said long ago, it seemed, Jeremiah stood before Versifeth's palace as the royal guards aimed their weapons at him, as he faced Edenthiel and Versifeth. Versifeth then commanded Jeremiah, If you care about your life and breaking your wife's heart, surrender and drop your weapon now. Seeing that there was far more guards than bullets and no cover, Jeremiah put his weapon on the ground and had his hands in the air. Versifeth then further commanded, Now leave your weapon on the ground and walk forward. Jeremiah then took a few steps towards the elven guard, shot him with a blaster pistol, paralyzing him, as he was put in shackles. Versifeth then said, For what you've done to former Queen Poxua and killing members of my family, though they may have been corrupt, you will spend the rest of your life in prison. Consider it an act of mercy until your wife convinced me to spare your life, or I would have ordered my elven guards to kill you. Snake Eyes then stepped forward and said, About our arrangement. Now it's time you pay up. Servants, pack her belongings and send them with her. Versifeth then dismissively waved her hands at Snake Eyes. Your gold is in the box trailer by the gate. Your work is done here. Easiest money I've gained all my life. I would have accepted your offer sooner if I knew it'd be this easy. Jeremiah then glared and his Snake Eyes were paralyzed. Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes then had an evil grin, revealing those rattlesnake fangs and dragon-slit eyes. You know my policy. Where there's money, I always follow through. Versifeth then had her royal guard drag Jeremiah away and throw him into prison. Versifeth then said to Edenthiel, Now that justice has been achieved for my family, you are free to go. It was good knowing you, Edenthiel, but now our relationship is over. Servants, pack her belongings and send them with her. And although her heart was in agony at the sight of her husband being taken away and thrown into prison for life, she realized there was nothing she could do. So she became so overwhelmed with emotion that she ran into no idea of where to go before the servants even packed her belongings. Then she kept running aimlessly as bystanders failed to even notice her. And after a while of running, she huffed and tired and distraught to think of only her failure to protect her husband from Versifeth, when she had the chance to destroy her in an instant if only. She remembered her magical ability. But while in the cafe thinking about what she did, she noticed a waitress standing over her table and asked in something in Selenese along the lines of, Miss, can I help you? Edenthiel looked up as a tear-stained eyes as the waitress looked back and stepped away, not wanting to bother her. Edenthiel then asked where she was, and the waitress answered, You're in New Lansara City. Are you going to order something or not? Edenthiel then asked for a tea, and the waitress came out with a fresh tea and a bill as Edenthiel blamed herself, thinking, When you needed me the most, I abandoned you. How can I even call yourself your wife when you came all this way to rescue me? I don't have a way at you and that Tanuki girl, and you should have never married me. She's more worthy of you than me, who abandoned you in your time of need. Edenthiel then kept crying while Umbriel, disguised as a common citizen, during his self-imposed exile, thought to himself, Is that Edenthiel? And why is she crying? Should I keep it disguised or should I say something? To bloody hell with it. I know something's not right, especially because I have never seen her like this, not even around Poxera. Umbriel then got up and went over Edenthiel and said, Edenthiel, what is going on? This isn't like you. Edenthiel then looked at Umbriel with the tear-stained eyes, but couldn't bring herself to speak. Umbriel then said, Take the time you need. It's not like anyone knows who I am in disguise. but I couldn't mistake your face for anyone else with all that we went through in Boxer's palace. Identio then said weakly, I couldn't be the person my husband needed me to be. Umbra then looked at Identio with both sadness and curiosity. What do you mean by that? I don't want to assume anything that isn't there. Identio then struggled to hold herself together and look at Umbra in the eye. I abandoned him when he needed me the most, and now he'll spend the rest of his life in prison or slavery. Umbra then slammed his fist against the table. Then tell me what happened. Surely something can be done about this. Identio then looked down. I don't think anything can be done. Versifeth already sentenced him. Versifeth, as in the high-ranking member of the Lansara royal family? That Versifeth. What can I do, just a lowly commoner against him when she's so powerful politically and I have nothing? You have me. But you're just a lowly commoner like myself. What can you do that I can't? Sure, I might not be capable of magic like you, but I don't need magic to vindicate the innocent. Are you sure you don't recognize me? Identio then looked at Umbriel, emotionally drained. I don't, but I know you're trying to help me with my heart sense. Of course, it's only right to return the favor since you've turned the life of my goddaughter around for the better. My name is Umbriel, and I serve as her Kigore. Identio then looked at Umbriel, remembering who he was, and said, How can you help me then? I can help you by bringing those thugs to justice, and you're just the person I need to get them convicted. Now come with me to Queen Ariana's palace. She'll be happy to know her sister-in-law is safe from the Lansaro family. And from there, under my command, I have the entire Selenese armed forces to be used against Lansaro and their treasonous accomplices. Dawn of Enlightenment. Meanwhile, Prince Darius was overseeing the growing tension and potential civil war between differing Selenese factions. And he thought to himself, Soon the day of reckoning is coming. Unlike you, Odin, whom I refuse to call father, I will lead my Valkyries to a life, while you will lead them to a pointless and cruel death. And from the coming ashes of the Selenese Queendom, I will build a new kingdom, a kingdom not built on vainglory but on truth, and a new age of reason, something everyone but my mother refuses to see. Your false glory will be forgotten, while my Valkyries will live to see a better future your barbaric and primitive ways refuse to see. You will forever live in darkness, while I will lead the path to a new enlightenment, one you refuse to see. Now kill yourself, along with your sons Thor and Loki against America and Zulshura, where you will die in vain. Did you know this? Solara. In the expanded universe of Another World's fairy tale, Solara was the original name of the region of Zulshura before it became Christianized. Solara was also the name of one of the members of the ancient Zulshuran pantheon, who was punished by the gods for bringing fire and knowledge to mankind. This was reflected in pre-Christian Zulshura with various festivals and sacrifices, being known as Solara, and were oftentimes done with new technologies related to agriculture and military. There were also other festivals such as the theatrical festivals with writing competitions between the best writers to write tragedy plays, to be acted out in the theaters carved into the sides of a hill. The most famous of these tragedy plays was known as The Downfall of Solara, about the punishment of Solara received for his actions and about the mythical origins of the Zulshuran people. After the 2nd century AD, when Christianity would become predominant within the Zulshuran Empire, the tragedy plays would eventually be outlawed because they honored pagan idols, and many of the myths and the pagan era and culture would fade into obscurity, with them only being partially preserved in monasteries where monks were interested in preserving history. Darius blending Enlightenment and ancient Greek philosophy. For anyone who is in the know, Prince Darius borrows a lot of ancient Greek and Enlightenment era philosophy for his own cause, such as advocating for an age of reason. This is similar to how Aristotle believed that in order to live rightly, the mind had to overcome the will and the visceral desires of the body. Aristotle also taught that what is morally right is usually what is most rational, and the mean between the extremes. Hence, Darius subscribes to this morality philosophy, seeking a balance between war and violence and peace and prosperity. Alternate universe idea. Considering Jeremiah and Natalia were naturally close friends, it seems like in an alternate universe they would be practically brother and sister. However, their relationship would probably never get physical because Natalia is a Tanuki and Jeremiah is a human. But Edenthiel comparing herself to Natalia does mean that in some way Edenthiel does feel like she has a rivalry or an inferiority complex when it comes to Natalia and her relationship with her husband.